Welcome to the fourth and final episode of the Ideal Disciple Discovery Process Behind the Scenes Tour. In this series, we culminate our exploration into the heart of impactful church engagement. Today, we walk through the process of building a marketing content framework designed to resonate with your church's ideal disciple. Witness the strategies that the pastor from Maryland employs to connect deeply with his congregation through meaningful content.
Yeah, we're gonna just go ahead and jump right in
Sounds good.
and get started. Just a bit of a recap from our past couple of meetings. So we went through who our hero is. We talked about retired Randy and or Rebecca and what their real wants were. The fact that they were a bit more of a boomer demographic and what some of their desires are in their life at this current time. From the fact they want to add value, they want to impact the next generation, they want to be close to their grandchildren, be a part of community and fellowship. We talked about some of the problems that they have dealt with or dealing with. The fact that some of them are losing vitality, hopelessness, identity crisis, self-centeredness, and technology barrier. And we came up with the phrase that we believe that hope resides in every season of life, and that everyone should experience the significance that the gospel provides us both in this life and the life to come. And we talked about a bit of our role as their guide. So the church's role, rather, that many of the members are in the same age range. They have children who have stepped away from faith and feel like they have failed. So other members have that same situation. The fact that technology is the technology barrier is universal. Understanding the physical limitations, the bad church experience, and not having substantial church background. And some of what we've been qualified with: 32 years of ministry, third church pastorate, nearly completed doctorate, being 60 and still working on education, 37 years of marriage. The church is 62 years old, and the majority of the congregation is in that phase of life. So a bit of a recap. Before we step into number 4, has there been any other thoughts given to any of those sections that you've thought through over the past couple of weeks?
Yeah, I've been really thinking about it. Obviously, having the eye surgery, I've been at the house and not working, so it's given time to think. I think we were on the right track. I had a deacons meeting last night, and it was funny because I asked the very question you asked me: who are we best geared to reach?
Mhm.
And for those 6 guys around the table, 2 kind of got it.
Yeah.
4 didn't. What I mean by that is they're just stuck on, we got to reach young families. And when I asked, well, suppose we reach 30 young families, then what? Well, it was more like, well, I guess we just have to pray that God would send the people to do this. But I'm like, okay, that's not necessarily faith. That might be a little bit of hope. I guess we'll hope it'll all work out.
Yeah.
One guy was on, said, I never thought it from that side, because I've kind of tried to portray a little bit, why don't we backload this thing instead of trying to front load it with families and young couples? Why don't we backload it with our age group? And around the table, the average age was, I'd say, about 69. And some were saying, well, I was at this church and they did this, and I was at that church and we did that. And I know a lot of those churches, so all of them, the thing that was completely different they weren't capturing yet was all those churches had workers, and our people were still a little bit, at least that part of the leadership team is still looking at, okay, as long as we hire this other staff member we're looking for, that will solve all our problems, and we know that won't solve our problems.
Yeah.
So I still think we're on the right track.
Yeah.
I think it's just going to be a matter of, in each meeting, beginning to have those conversations and dealing realistically with where we are versus aspirationally where we are.
Yes, absolutely. So having that, and I think that's probably going to be a bit of, many times a lot of churches or people in church have more of an aspirational thought around the idea of, like, who their target person is to reach and things of that sort. But I think over time they'll begin to come to grips with it. But it's glad that the seed's already being sowed. So hopefully that continues to turn into the proper direction.
Yeah.
So in the next phase, now it's really getting into what the process or the plan that we would put in place, sort of the steps that we would put in place to disciple them or to integrate this target audience, this hero, into our ministry. So this looks like a lot of different a lot of different things, but it's really more so talking about what the discipleship process is for the church, everywhere from reaching them where they are to actually seeing them getting integrated into the ministry, and what that process sort of looks like. So basically creating a map from where they are currently to getting them into the church. So just hearing that, what would you say that would look like, maybe in a 3-step process, just from the top of your head?
I think, first of all, you're going to have to get some people to do personal invites to friends and family, possibly set up a connection event.
And I'm just going to write all this down, and then we'll summarize it afterwards. So
Yeah, that's fine. And what I mean by that is, obviously, if you got a group coming, we've asked them to fill out a connection card, and after a certain, you might at a every quarter do some kind of connection event where you can answer questions and answer their questions, kind of share the vision for the church and try to get them to begin thinking about the gospel more.
Mhm.
And then ultimately your third is to probably get them into a group, get them that community connection.
And that's already something that the church does? Are there current groups
We
running?
do have some current groups on campus. We're trying to get some folks trained for off-campus groups. I have one lady that's done one, and so I'm just letting her go kind of on her own. We don't have necessarily a training session right now, but we're letting her use her experience of doing it in the past
Mhm.
for that.
Does the church currently have a new members class?
Yes.
Okay. So would that usually be a part of the membership going through that
Yes,
class?
it's required for membership.
And then so getting them through a new members class, getting them into a group, anything else that kind of comes to mind?
Probably at that time, sitting down, depending on their level of church, kind of a first steps one-on-one with a discipler, like a one-on-one discipleship.
Okay. So basically what the process would go, some type of outreach event in the community, some type of community outreach event that people would invite, so other members would invite people in the community too. So maybe some level of advertisement to those people in that, like maybe put some flyers out at the group home, put some like various places that that population would be at, and then from there see about connecting them into the group, and then getting them into the new members class. Does that sound?
Sounds about right, Larry.
Okay. And what we say in the meantime is, and I think this really works, especially with sort of your online presence, is maybe there's two different types of campaigns that in marketing we go through. One is like a sales campaign, so it's really focused on getting people to sell or purchase a product. But there are some people who may not be in that phase of wanting to purchase at that time, and what we call that campaign is sort of a nurturing campaign. So what we do during that phase with that particular person is we connect them, like we'll maybe get their email or something like that, and just send them information that would help them, like in terms of education or things of that sort. And it's just basically like, hey, you're not ready right now, but this is something that you can do in the meantime if you're not really ready to walk through that process. So in the meantime, would you say maybe watching your live stream would be
something? Yeah, watching the live stream, maybe attending one of our, even just do a senior adult event. We call them our prime timers, like coming to one of the luncheons or one of the presentations they do. Sometimes they do a like a fraud seminar, how to avoid being scammed, stuff like that.
Oh yeah, I'm sure that's definitely a good helpful event to go to. So
I think for us also making sure that we think through how we might do ministry to those people in a different way, because I think there's a difference if someone's coming from 50 to 74 and then 75 and older. I think there's different needs, different ways we want to approach that, and so we're thinking through that conversation.
Absolutely. So that I think that's definitely on the right track. Just having something in place for those that are more just curious about faith, but not necessarily ready to make that.
On that, would you do like a monthly communication piece with them, or is that not enough? What has been your experience, Larry? Is it more biweekly, or?
I definitely think monthly would probably be would probably be a good phase for that. It kind of really just depends on the demographic. So that's sort of the thing. There's some that would say like do it weekly. It really depends on the type of content that it is, as well as sort of what it is that you're sort of sharing with them. One thing I would definitely recommend with your events is to get information, like contact information.
Always have like a registration card so we can have that phone and contact information, because we do use something called easy text. And so we can always send out like a text blast to a certain group. We could set it up as a prospect group, or name it like, based on the event. Maybe we're having a picnic event, and so that's the picnic group, and we know kind of what that makeup is because we kind of targeted a certain audience for that.
That's definitely good. I would also look at email as well,
right?
Or as like maybe a newsletter that group can get access to sort of on a weekly basis. But those two I definitely think I would recommend maybe a little easier on the text than the email. I would just because I know sometimes people if they're getting text message too much, they might see it as
harassment and block you and all that stuff. Might have a negative effect versus a reach out effect.
Right. Email is definitely more like, while it doesn't have as high of an open rate, that's definitely true. At the same time, people are less thrown off by it, or they're less shut off by the idea of that. I guess we kind of consider our text message more of a sacred space.
Yeah, because I mean, that's more like if I'm trying to communicate with a friend or a family member. I mean, I know I will hit stop. There's been certain things I've signed up for initially, like I needed to have that, but at a certain point, it's like, okay, a text every other day is a little bit too much, so I just opt out of you.
Right, absolutely. Also, something I would look into as well is during some of the events that you mentioned, like the event about how not to be scammed or something, something that might be a good thing to do is maybe record those events, especially if there's like a presentation involved. And that could be something that could be sent to the group that your prospecting group as well, as something like, hey, maybe you missed this event, but we wanted you to have the information.
Sure.
Either way, and here's that information. I think that's always something good, especially, and that's one of the beauties of really targeting your group, because you begin to learn what more of those needs are, and then you can create content or resources for people that fall into that category.
Sure.
So I think that would definitely be something good, maybe to include even in a monthly newsletter or something along those lines.
Gotcha.
That they can get access to. So that's definitely good. The next phase here is the agreement, or how do we plan to what are some of our guarantees, or how do we overcome their objectives? So objections. So let's think through, like, what are some objections that you think sort of come to mind for this group that we're targeting when it comes to joining a church or anything along those lines?
I think part of it is they're set in their ways,
Mhm.
and they've made out okay without a relationship with the church or with God at this point.
Would you say maybe physical limitations, like
Some will be physical limitations,
and we even talked about technological limitations.
Yeah.
Definitely when it comes to social media, when it comes to communicating with them on any technological part, it definitely requires a little bit more thought, just because of the understanding that they may have issues. Even like just off the top of my head, just thinking like, if you're going to send a newsletter, definitely wanting it to be big font, not small.
right? Yeah, we don't want it to be a 7 font. We want it to be like a 13 or 14.
So just there's certain things that we understand that they may have some limitations there, and how to overcome that. So maybe put technology
Challenges, limitations is fine either way.
So I think this is a good set there. Anything else you could think of for in terms of objections that they may come when it comes to joining a new community?
I think sometimes you're going to have to overcome organized religion. I think at this point, religion versus relationship. I think they're going to look at it first as it's religion.
Mm-hmm.
Not interested in religion.
Yeah. So those are some pretty heavy objections there. So it's definitely some walls to tear down, to overcome. But it's good that we know that these are the things that they're thinking about. These are some of the things that they are that we know are ahead of us for this particular individual. So what are some things that the church can say with all of these things in mind, right? The fact that they're set in their ways, the fact that that they made it this far in life without a church. So they're probably like, if I made it this far, no point in cleaning that up now. The fact that they have physical limitations, they have technological limitations, and they have a stigma when it comes to organized religion. Lots of barriers there. But what are some guarantees that they make that lets them know, hey, I understand all of these things, but
I think the hardest one we're going to have facing initially will be the physical limitations because of our building. We are putting in, and we're in the process of getting the final bids now. We're putting lifts from like one level to the sanctuary level, and then like from our fellowship hall level to our bathroom level, like more preschool or children's area. We aren't able to accommodate all of our physical limitations because we're like 4 floors, but we're eliminating 3 of the 4. We just can't get that massive elevator that gets them from floor level 2 to level 4, just because the building doesn't accommodate that. The one thing we are doing though is we're developing more parking on the front end, which will be our main entrance, or is our main entrance, and they can come right into the sanctuary level. I think that's where, with some of the physical limitations, possibly the off-campus groups will help, because they might be able to get into a home versus our building.
How the thought just came to me. Is there currently a parking lot team?
Not yet. Not yet. We had hoped to be under construction at this point, but the county's holding us up. But I think when we get to that place, we will have to put people out to direct traffic on our new traffic patterns. And that is something we can begin working on in the next, over the summer probably, because we think we'll be under construction in the fall, coming in early year. So it'll give us some time if we start in the summer, looking how we might develop a parking lot team to help us with those things.
Definitely. Even I go to a church here in the Atlanta area, and they actually have people, because of the way that it's not a traditional building, so it's actually kind of in a complex where the parking's in different places.
Yeah.
And they actually have golf carts, and they even hired and this obviously I have no idea. I was like, man, how much does this cost? But they hired people to come pick people up to bring them to the front. So definitely, and I remember the pastor talking about that during service, these guys help me preach because you're not offended when you come in because of the parking lot issue.
Yeah, you don't get mad at the parking spots.
So those having people out there is definitely helpful.
I think the hardest barriers to overcome are going to be probably the set in their ways and made it this far without church, because if they're coming to worship, we can avoid some of the technological challenges. We have a tech team, they're putting the screens up, they're making all that work. We may have some challenges if we have, it might be if we have someone that's homebound, we have to go over to their house and help them, figure out how to get into their computer or whatever to go online. And the organized religion, I think you can be proud of your heritage. but you don't have to set up there, and you can get over that, I think, a little bit easier than the first two.
Yeah.
I think the first two are going to come out of relationship.
Mhm.
They're going to want to be with so and so. I think you see it with teenagers. I think you see it with young kids. I was talking to my nephew today. His son's homeschooled, and so he's on a little league team. And he says he wants to be on the field every minute with them because otherwise he doesn't have a lot of kids he's playing with during the day. He just has his siblings. And I think if we can forge those relationships well, that's going to be a big thing because they're going to want to be with the people. And then they made it this far without church. I think the gospel begins to break that down. Yes, you have made it this far, and it doesn't mean your life was a miserable, wretched experience, but it kind of goes back to that statement at all seasons in life, in this life and the next. So the next life is inevitable. So there needs to be a preparation for that.
Definitely.
And they'll start experiencing some of those other limitations that they have, such as physical limitations, health limitations, and all of a sudden someone close to them will die. They'll have something significant will happen that'll broach a conversation about what do you think about this, that can present a gospel conversation.
Wow. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So based on what I'm hearing here, we have two sort of guarantees or agreements when it comes to these objections. One has to deal with accommodation, and the other one has to do with relationship, being relational and building connection with them.
That's the way I see it. I think we have to set up some things that allow us to build relationships, and that can come through the group life, but it can also come through somebody that's hanging out in the outreach events or having them plug in to meet people at one of our other events somehow. I don't think we can get around the relational aspect. We could have the best facility, we could have the best way to get people from point A to point B, we could dumb down technology, we could dumb down organized religion, but unless they have, because what we set up in the beginning is they're actually they're used to community, and so we're having to say this community is worth being part of for some reason, because they can replace their community another way. They could join the knitting club, the community club, the travel club, the whatever, photography club, whatever. They get a hobby or whatever if they're younger. But you have to try to make these relationships, leverage those relationships in a way that they want to be part of what we're doing.
Absolutely. Absolutely. That's definitely, even with all of the technology and everything else that we have, at the end, it really boils down to members out in the community, making connections, building bonds, and then being that bridge that brings those people that they met into the ministry. I think that's definitely the oldest way of growth, and it still works really well.
Yeah. I think it was Justin put something on one of his Facebook posts that still 90% people say they will come if invited. You guys just help the invite take place, or something to that effect.
Yep, that's still, and the key is just mobilizing the members, getting members mobilized, equipped, and allowing them sort of a natural place to go out and build those connections. So I'm going to make this statement pretty simple, and this is definitely going to need to get cleaned up.
Yeah,
I would say we are committed to. It's a bit rough.
Yeah, I think you could at Bethel Baptist Church, we're committed to accommodating, connecting with community regardless of their season of life or season in life.
That sounds good.
It flows through what we said in the upper part a little bit cleaner.
Yes, absolutely. Very good. Thank you so much for that.
Larry, I was going to ask you a question as we went through this. Obviously, will this go into our shared file?
Yes.
What I was thinking, but I want to ask your permission before we did such a thing. I've asked it, but I haven't written it out with a bunch of people. Can we go through, or can I use those highlights and go through it with leadership at different places?
I believe so. I'll need to
clarify
with Justin.
Yeah, no, that's fine. That's fine.
Yeah, that would be more his call.
Okay, that's not a problem. And again, I'm just thinking of how to help them think through it versus like you and I have thought through it. I'd like to help them think through it because I get my buy-in at that level.
Got it. Yeah, no problem at all. Yeah, we will. I know that we are going to work on the slide deck after this process is complete.
Okay.
So once he comes on, we'll go through that with him.
Yeah, I was wondering what the next step was after you and I were done all this fun stuff.
Yeah. So let's try to jump.
Let's try to knock this out.
Sure. So the call to action button. This is one of the keys this is definitely a big key to the website. So you always want to have a clear thing that you're wanting people to go to when they come to the website. For most churches, it would be a plan your visit button. Just something, it's a simple form that people click on to the website.
Yeah, we worked on that on ours with Justin. Ours might need some refining, but I think we have that in place.
Okay, so would you want to keep that as the primary call to action, you would think?
I would think so. And one thing I have to ask Justin, and this isn't necessarily related, it's kind of related, like what do we put on the front versus what do we put under events? Like we have an event coming up this weekend. We were totally late in getting it on because our staff member didn't get it there. Yeah. Well, like when does it go on under like an event tab, and when does it go on like a main page? So I think he and I need to work through that a little bit. Yeah. Like obviously Vacation Bible School, you want on your front page at a certain point, but if we were doing an event targeted to this demographic, when does it come, on our front page? When, how many weeks out do we need it on front page? Stuff like that, I think is something we're trying to still think through.
definitely. Yeah, I think that that's something you definitely want to talk through with him. I'm sure he'll have some good suggestions.
I'm sure he will.
So some successes. So thinking through, once a person becomes a disciple, comes into the ministry, they're walking with Christ now. They're a part of the community. What are some of the successes that we know that they're going to experience as they go through this process with us?
Well, hopefully they come out with a piece of we're assuming they've made this decision, so they're at peace with God and with themselves. And the reason I say that is I think without being at peace with God, they're not going to be at peace with themselves. And sometimes we get to the end of a career or whatever, and we're like, did I waste my life?
Right.
Because honestly, I mean, all of us have things we wish would have worked out differently. And hopefully they're coming through feeling, okay, one, I'm at peace with myself of where God took me or where I went. And in addition, that I have something still valuable to give. I'm not done.
So a renewed passion for life.
Yeah. I think that's really important for guys because we drive so much around our work. So if we retire, the old adage is guy retires in 3 weeks, 3 months later he's dead. Because
I actually heard a study the other day. I listened to Kerry Newlaw, and he was interviewing somebody. He interviews a lot of church leaders, and he said that they said the highest rate for suicide are those that like sell their business or something like that. Like guys right after they sell their business or their suicide rate goes up significantly.
Wow, that's amazing.
So they have a renewed passion for life. What about the connection that they have with people in the congregation?
I think they're developing new friendships and relationships and inviting others to experience this.
So they get a new they discover a new mission.
Yeah.
And also they're growing also in their
spiritual development. Yeah, they're growing in their sanctification, if you want to use a spiritual term. But spiritual development is good.
Awesome. So then that takes us to what failures are we helping them avoid?
Isolation. I don't want to say it from that standpoint of we're keeping them from killing themselves, but we're keeping them from
maybe apathy
or lack of value. I mean, ultimately, if they come into a relationship with Christ, we're keeping them from failing in the afterlife, avoiding punishment. I mean, we're not going to put turn or burn on our website, but
eternal, I would say you're keeping them from avoiding eternal
separation, anxiety. Okay, that's fair.
So there's a bit more peace in that area.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
We may even help them reestablish relationships that have been harmed. Maybe they're kids and they don't get along because dad was a really horrible father up until this point, and for whatever reason, maybe he worked too much, drank too much, played too hard, disrespected their mother, was a womanizer or whatever. And so kids and daughters and sons are like, that's not what I want to be. And we have a lady in our church right now for whatever reason, and she wants to make it pretty innocuous, but there's been a severing of relationship between her son, and so she hasn't seen her grandkids in over a year.
Oh, wow.
And so she's probably not the only one. So if you are able to heal some of those relationships and help them and even help the kids do some peacemaking through those things.
Yeah, those are definitely I'm sure that's pretty common in many of those cases, unfortunately.
Yeah.
So I think that definitely is a great list there for both of those sections. And that leads us finally to the one-liner. And I think that Justin's going to be coming on soon, so he might help us wrap this up.
Okay. Yeah.
So basically, within the one-liner, it's 3 phases to it. You have the problem, the solution, and the success. So when we think through the problem that these individuals have, maybe kind of summarize the big issue that they are sort of facing. Where would you summarize that to? Like, how would you summarize that in your opinion?
They are ferociously independent. And I would say that they have very little thought of God at this point. I think culturally we are probably where this generation, their parents stopped taking them to church. We had this conversation last night, Larry. Vacation Bible School, I think, at our church has become a rotation of God's people from one church to the next to babysit their kids for a week at a time, because their lost parents aren't even thinking about Vacation Bible School because they haven't been to Vacation Bible School.
Right.
They can go to chess camp, computer camp, space camp, you name the camp, and just fill in what the adjective is. So they don't necessarily need Vacation Bible School to fill their time.
Right.
So most of the kids that come, they've been to like 12 Vacation Bible schools, depending on when we have ours. So they know the answer is Jesus.
Wow.
And I think we live in a very independent, secluded culture. People drive into we've been talking about it for 30 years. People drive into their garages, put the garage door in, and walk up to their condo or walk into their house, and they may or may not even know who their neighbors are after living next to them.
Absolutely.
And they have very little need for anything outside of the circle.
Yeah.
That's why I said they were ferociously independent, or very independent.
So
go ahead.
What would you say is the solution for that particular problem that presents to these people?
I think through those relationships that we seek to forge, we can have a conversation that they were designed for community by God.
Awesome. And then the result that comes, that is a result of this migration that they enter into.
They realize the importance of interdependence and let the walls down that they put up.
But I'm gonna try to put this together here into one sentence. This is what I got. The world is ferociously independent, but through community connection, will support them to help them, realize that they were created for connection with God and each other.
Yeah, I think that's a good statement.
So that's basically sort of a summary of everything that we put together thus far.
Yeah.
And just sort of the rallying cry that the ministry can get behind when they're looking to whenever anyone says like, what is this ministry about? What is this? What is your guys' mission? What are you guys looking to do? This would be sort of the statement that they would come up, that they would lean.
Gotcha.
All right, the man of the hour.
Man of the hour.
What's going on, guys? You still working, or are y'all wrapped up?
We just wrapped up the one-liner. Why don't you take a look at it?
Cool. I like that. Hey, that's looking good, man. I like that.
Awesome.
And how are you doing, man?
I'm good. Improving.
Good. All right. Larry, you need to wrap up anything else with Ken, or you good me to offboard him?
I'm good. We went through the process. We went through overcoming objectives, got our call to action. Yeah, I think we got everything looking pretty good.
Do we have a transitory? If they're not ready to plan a visit, let's do this instead.
Yes. So what we put there.
Oh, there it is. It's part of the plan. Okay, I was looking at call to action. Yeah, it looks like everything we need. I love it, man. So Ken, did you get that receipt this morning?
Yes, I did. Yeah, thank you.
It was a problem on our end. I didn't have some email setting set up right or something. Like I said, it's a new system.
No, not a problem, man. We're good.
Cool. So the next steps on this, Ken, I really appreciate your time spent with Larry, especially today because I couldn't be in. I had double up, actually triple up calls. I just got off a third call in the last hour. So I appreciate you, Larry, for taking this over. Not that you couldn't do it. So Ken, the next step as far as the messaging is concerned, we're going to consolidate all of this and we're going to turn it into two primary deliverables for you. Number one is it's going to be in a presentation slide format. This is for you to quick reference, or if you want part of new members orientation, just a visual representation of everything we discussed here. Okay. And it's going to be the best piece of ammo that comes out of this really is, if you remember from real life discipleship, the phrases from the stage.
Yeah.
Some of the things in here can be treated as such. And so it makes it real easy when we're doing invite cards or just, hey, invite a friend. Have you ever heard them say this? Have you ever heard them experience a pain with this? That kind of signifies we're equipped to serve them. So that's number one, is that kind of like just slide deck. So you have something to reference. It's more in depth. Number two is we also give you a staff handout. We try to bring it down. You see this is 3 pages. We bring it down into one, and that's a one sheet for your greeter team, your staff, your leaders, lay ministers, anyone you want to give it to. Just as a quick reference, like, hey, here's a reminder of the people we're going after. If you're a greeter, here's what we want them to do. Or, even during the week at events, we want that next thing for them to be to come back Sunday. Okay. I think some people will be like, oh, you can join a group, you can potluck, you can come to the musical, you do this, that. No, we just want them to come Sunday. When you have that absolute clarity, it makes it really easy. So those are the two primary things we'll deliver with that. Our next step is the visual branding. We had talked a little bit about that. The B that we have, it's a little traditional, outdated. And now that we have some of the messaging, we can really update it. I don't think we need to totally redo it, but we can update it to just resonate with this kind of person a little bit more. Okay. So that'll be our next step. It'll be just a 20-minute call. We probably do it over the phone. I'll send you some email on that as a next step. Okay. Absolutely. Cool. Ken, you got anything else for me?
No, I think we're good. I'll send you some stuff for the website. And just the one thing I did ask, like if I'm working with our leadership team, trying to help them understand kind of where we're going, can I ask them some of these questions that Larry went through with me? I mean, I'm not know your stuff. I'm just trying to figure out how to best communicate with them.
Yeah, absolutely. And you're not stealing anything. It's a process we use called story brand, which is taking our community, our neighbors, these people we're equipped to serve, they're the heroes, and we just lay out the roadmap for them. Gotcha. So if you want to get the exact answers, you can go get that book. It's not going to be exactly what Larry asked you, but at a high level, it's going to be kind of those questions to ask. But yeah, absolutely. And if something changes, if sometimes we spend 6 months, 8 months on this, and we do a little bit more massaging on it, loosen it up a little, tighten it up a little. Yeah. It's a living brand. So as things change, maybe leadership changes, and sometimes even this is for, I shouldn't say sometimes. Eventually, it should get to the point where this is for the entire church, and we want to do this again for each ministry. Right. And that really clarifies and gives the leadership a lot of ammunition of this is who we're equipped to serve and go after. Okay. So yeah, so that's absolutely, you have total permission to ask questions. And if you want to bounce some ideas off, we can do a quick call and kind of see where we're at on updating it.
That's cool. That's
all right, Ken. I'll send you an email debriefing you on this phase and then what we need to do for the next phase.
Okay.
Crafting a marketing content framework is a powerful way to amplify your church's message. Pastors, let's collaborate to design a framework that resonates with your congregation's heart and soul. Thank you for accompanying us on this enlightening journey through the Ideal Disciple discovery process. Your pursuit of impactful discipleship is an inspiration. Reach out to us and let's continue to shape the future of your church's engagement strategies. Until next time, may your journey be filled with growth and transformation.